So thank you very much for the survey today. If I get a chance, I'm going to update and edit this video, but in a much shorter form with a focus on a single issue and anything that might be affecting it and some additional information. But here is the unedited version, and in the email there are all the recommendations and actions. I've used AI to do it, just makes it quicker and also more accurate. Less is dropped through, and I quickly read through it to check that it all makes sense. But I will double check before sending the final version. Note, I do the data loggers when I send off the final version. So thank you very much, and have a listen. Do you want to give me a background, how long you've been here, when you've started seeing it?
We've been here about 10 years.
Yeah.
To be honest, I can't tell exactly when we first started seeing it, so I don't know whether they'd painted over it when we'd moved in and we hadn't noticed it. I had various, sort of like, they're called surveys, but they come along and they said there's damp here,
And presumably you didn't get the injections, but I think
No.
I wonder whether it has been injected in the past. I'll have a look on the outside.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
Not in your time.
No.
So you've been here 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. This.
Okay. And is it just this area, or are there other issues?
No. So it seems to be. If you look, it's a bit difficult with this.
Behind the cabinet. Okay.
There.
Well.
Now, when they done these surveys, they said it was along the whole thing, but
okay.
I can't see no evidence there.
Okay. It's going to be relatively easy to sort this one out,
Right.
I think.
But what's been bugging me, if you want to come outside,
Of course,
the only other place where, I'm not sure whether it is damp, to be honest, it is down here. The paint's pit up.
Okay.
But
and did you have these doors put in, or was that?
Yeah. So this was put in probably as near as damn it 10 years ago.
When you bought.
So we had this.
And this is an extension.
Yeah, this was built at the same time.
Oh, so it's just the extension is out this way. This is part of the original because you've got it. This is the back edition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was built on about between 9 and 10 years.
I think I can see your problem already. Your extractor fan's not going out. It's just recycling vapour.
Right. Sorry, say that again.
Your extractor fan, the vent from it's not going out. It's just recycling vapour.
Yeah, I know. That's
Okay, let's have a look outside. So I saw you had data loggers. You sent me which is great. But what I'll just do is I'll calibrate them and make sure they're fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would be, but
this is the thing that's been irritating more than see how it goes along.
I'll tell you what that is. I've already filmed on the outside of the other property. You can see it visibly on the other side. I think what you had is stable block here between the two properties, going back to Victorian times.
Right.
And these are hygroscopic salts caused by either burning of fossil fuels or by equine urine, horse pee.
Right.
And they're not a source of water. They're not causing internal damage, but they do cause discoloration internally. And typically, what people used to do in the old days is say that they were caused by rising damp, but that's not actually the case. Because rising damp comes from groundwater, and groundwater is pumped out in London, so you don't get rising damp in London. But you get a lot of this issue, and you see how it's just it's got a slight wave to it, but it's more or less horizontal, and it's about it can go up to about 1 metre, but in this case I was about 800 mil.
I mean, what's the other odd thing? It seems to stop almost abruptly there.
Okay, I can explain the scientific reason for that.
Right.
But it is a little bit complex.
No, don't go there then.
No, I will do.
Oh God.
I like going there.
Yeah.
But it is relatively complex.
Okay.
But so these are salts that attract moisture from air.
Right.
Just like silicon gel or sea salt or table salt attracts moisture. You know how table salt gets clumpy when it gets really humid?
Yeah.
And in Italy, in places, they put rice in to stop that. They're called hygroscopic, so they're attracting moisture.
Okay.
And
that's why you have to rip the plaster off inside to get rid of the...
no, you don't need to rip it.
No,
plaster.
but
There's
that's
a
why
simpler solution. There's a modern solution to it, and that is paint a oil-based primer.
Okay.
But they used to do that in the old days.
Yeah.
But they are attracting moisture from air, so they cause a form of condensation. It's called deliquescence, and for calcium nitrate, which I think this is here, it causes deliquescence at 50% relative humidity. It's why you find it above the ground, because this is the sort of Goldilocks zone where the base of the wall it's too damp, and they migrate to the point where they're just in dynamic equilibrium between evaporation and condensation.
Okay. So it's like a threshold point.
Yeah, and likewise, so it's up this way and it's this way. Sometimes you'll find on chimney breasts you get it vertically.
Right.
You can't see it in this case. You get vertical and horizontal, and it's to do with the Goldilocks point where it's just damp enough to keep it there, but not too damp for it to move to the next dampest place.
I see. Okay.
So anyway, you got it's a very fine example.
Good.
And they're very. You don't actually need to do anything.
Right.
But it's an explanation for why you almost certainly had damp proofing in the past. I'm not seeing them on the inside. And what happened is people just used to replace the plaster, which means that you end up with less breathable plaster. Which increases the risk of condensation, and the specific areas you've got basically you've got condensation inside.
Right.
Because the train's going past, you probably won't get all of this. So I'll repeat it. So inside, what you have is condensation. So this air brick, which is really important because you need to keep subfloor ventilation to stop rot occurring in the joists and the subfloor.
Okay.
But anyway, it creates a zone of heat loss, which increases the risk of condensation. That's why you get it there. You'll have one there and there. And when we go back inside, I would say that's going to be that will align with where the worst of the damp is inside. So it's condensation I'm seeing, and the reason why I can be certain of that is that it's colourless. Right. And condensation is forming on the brick rather than passing through the brick. Right. If you have penetrating damp, that's rainwater that's coming through from the outside, you would expect to see a brown stain, because as it passes through the brick, it picks up pigmentation and it creates this brown stain. You don't have that. You've just got it on, so it's just surface condensation, which will have been absorbed deep into the wall, but it's still coming from the surface. So that explains why you're getting that colour, and likewise to around the window frame, or the door frame. This door frame is going to be. You see how it's quite going all the way up the door frame, and that's because you get a lot of heat loss. There's only a small amount of insulation in the wall because it's much thinner between the outside and the inside. Plus the metal of the door frame increases the heat loss there. I'll show you with a thermal imaging camera, but in winter you can see it much more clearly. You'll get a lot of heat loss around there. There are three ways of dealing with it. The simplest way, the best way that you have to do anyway, is to manage internal vapour by always keeping the internal dew point below the outside temperature, and I'll show you that with the data loggers. The other thing you can do is insulate. So you could replace that, and I'll show you in a sec, but space therm is a good form of insulation. The problem about insulation is that you're not actually dealing with the root cause. You'll potentially just move it on to somewhere else. Sorry, the first one is ventilation, so keeping the dew point by ventilating, insulation or dehumidification, and that is by removing the vapour through a dehumidifier.
Right. If I used breathable paint on that, would that make any difference?
Well, I think you should do that anyway.
Yeah, right.
But these are calcium sulphate salts that you see here.
Right.
But plaster. So the old name for calcium sulphate is gypsum, and plaster is made from gypsum.
Right.
It's something like 60% of this is calcium sulphate. So when it dampens for whatever reason, it will concentrate the salts and they'll move to the surface, just like sea salt. You know how you see with sea salt, there's sort of spiky salts around the top of the rocks. So it will blister behind the paint. It's benign, it doesn't do anything. You can just sandpaper it back and I would dry it first. I mean, it's probably relatively dry. I'll check with a damp meter, but it's probably relatively dry. It's a winter phenomenon that you see rather than a summer phenomenon. But it can occur all year round. I know last August, not this year, last year, it was particularly cold and there were a lot of damp issues last August. But it's so there are three solutions, and I would do at least 2 of them and consider doing the insulation as well. Okay. But I'll show you all of those. Let's collect your data loggers now and calibrate them.
I'm not sure I fitted them correctly, to be honest, because
that's all right, I can check. So 1, 2, and then one down there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see where the chimney breast is. So you've got a gas fire, but
we never use it.
You don't use it. But the thing to know about chimneys is that a normal wall is made from 2 skins of brick. Chimney breast, basically what they do is they open up the 2 skins and they put a void in the middle with a flue. And so you can get heat loss around chimney breasts caused by that, because you've only got 1 skin on the outside.
Right.
And if you get some heat loss when it's not in use, a chimney can cause zones of heat loss. Right. I'm not saying it necessarily is in this case, but it can often explain dampness around chimneys. And also the way it goes into the subfloor void. So the subfloor void is going to be colder and sometimes more humid. Right. I'm going to have a look to see, have you got access to the subfloor?
You can here, if I pull this out. It's about 5.5 foot underneath.
Sorry, it's about how much?
5.5 foot.
Whoa!
I mean, you can almost stand up, I think, under there.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll have a good look there.
Yeah, okay.
A couple of things to add. Do you notice how you can see the same damp zone above the ground here, about a metre, slightly higher in this case? It's hidden by the colour here, maybe why they painted the walls. Mistake in my opinion. Notice the chimney breast there, and you're missing one there, and you've got a window there which is presumably new, and I wonder if that has had an effect. Often it's changes to the properties that cause issues rather than the original property, because they're not badly designed or built. So I'm in your subfloor, and it's about 5 foot high. No major. So firstly, I would say it's relatively dry here. There is a bit of dampness to the front. That is almost certainly penetrating damp. That is water that's percolating through the outside. And it's interesting, you've got wallpaper here. Somebody's trying to internalise it. But you've got dampness there, which will be percolating from above. I don't see any leaks, and that's one of the major sources of dampness in properties. You've got your damp-proof course is there, and probably another one there. Yeah, there you go. So no problem with damp-proof coursing. Nicely over there. You've got some sign, oh, this has been replaced. I guess you've had dry rot in the past, because this timber, well, that damp-proof course looks new. This timber is either new or painted. I did notice some woodworm, I think. And let's look in here. Oh yeah, so there's some percolating damp there from the outside. I'll check your drain. There's quite damp there. Yes, I noticed this looks like, I think that's past dry rot. That looks like dry rot in the past. It's very old there. Oh look, that's dry rot. All of this here, interesting. So it looks like you've got a, I mean, I think you had it and they've taken it out. Do you see there? That is wood weevil. I mean, so you only get wood weevil when you've got a damp brick. So the important thing with subfloor ventilation, subfloors, is that you need to have good ventilation, and you've got it there and all the way along. That looks like it's been put in. It's a bit damp around this. It doesn't feel like it's leaking. Sometimes what happens is you get the cold from the water, causes localized dampness. Nothing to worry about. It will just naturally condense water from the vapour in the subfloor and evaporate out. There's nothing to worry about. So you've got the air brick there is immediately below the dampest zone. I'll do that again. So the air brick here is immediately below the dampest area. That's what's happening, is it's causing heat loss and increasing the risk of condensation. It's not the root cause of the condensation. The root cause of the condensation is always the excess vapour, which is defined as where you've got internal dew point above the outside temperature, and we'll look at that in a sec. Whether you knew or know that you had dry rot downstairs in the subfloor historically.
Right, okay.
There's some wood weevil as well, but neither are ongoing.
Right,
They look fine.
Where was it?
Just immediately below your feet. But it looks like it's all been treated fine.
Right.
You've got good air ventilation. There's a bit of dampness down there, and I wonder whether your front drain is working correctly. So I'll have a look at that. But it's mitigated by having good ventilation. But there are patches of dampness down there. And in poorly ventilated subfloors, what can happen is that the water goes into the subfloor, maybe from a drain or a leak or whatever, and it will evaporate and condense above the damp-proof course, and cause rising damp-like symptoms. But I doubt that would, and it can look a bit like the dampness you've got here. But you wouldn't particularly or necessarily have it around where the subfloor ventilation is. The subfloor ventilation is what increases the risk of condensation. So we'll have a look at the sources, but the key one is the kitchen extractor fan. And when it's really wet and cold outside, what do you do for drying clothes?
We've got the back bedroom, like the windows open and stuff like that.
Do you keep the door closed in there?
No. So
you want to keep the door closed and window open, so that there's airflow out and not back in, because if there's wind in this direction, it will cause the. But most vapour will rise, like clouds rise. It's because H2O is lighter than O2. But yeah, better to have a window open and or actually better still to use a dehumidifier really.
Right.
But yeah, 20 litre plus dehumidifier.
Okay.
So now we're looking at the zones of heat loss. Now you can tell a bit that there's a zone of heat loss there, but it's difficult because obviously it's relatively warm outside. In winter, you'll tell that there's a lot of heat loss. Now, also note that the sockets are just above where the air brick is, so you're getting a combination of factors. The socket will remove heat as well because you've got the wires going into the subfloor and drawing the heat out, plus the socket requires removal of plaster and therefore increase the heat loss, reduce the insulation. Got heat loss around there, you've got another wire there. In winter you can tell a lot more. I'll just see what I can see under here. Difficult to see. A couple of things to mention. One is that this extractor fan is running very slow, and I'll check, I might be able to fix it. It should be running at 15 there, that 15 litres a second it should be, not 3.7. Also, it switched off immediately when the lights were turned off. It should have an overrun of half an hour. You can compensate by keeping it running with the lights on, but also you want to make sure that the door's kept closed, and I noticed it wasn't when I came in. I've just turned it off here, and I shouldn't really use that, but it's for electricians, to just stop myself from electrocuting myself. This should keep the lights running for half an hour because 90% of the vapour in the bathroom remains there after you've stopped showering.
Right.
And it takes at least half an hour to remove it. Most extractor fans have a half hour overrun, but they need an extra wire, and sometimes electricians don't do that, and they should do. Okay. But you can do it manually by just keeping the lights on.
Okay.
Or you've got a window here, so you can have the window open. But also the important thing is to have the door closed. Right. But there's a lot of misunderstanding on that. People leave the door open because they want the vapour to be removed from the bathroom, which is fine. But when it's removed from the bathroom, it's just going to move into the rest of the house. Okay. You want it to go out, so it's better to have the bathroom as a sacrificial area where you get condensation than in the living room and kitchen.
Okay.
Let's use a dehumidifier at all.
No.
So I'd say that is the biggest saving of both your property and costs.
Right.
Is to use a dehumidifier. Dehumidifiers will remove roughly 2 litres of water per day. Roughly, each individual contributes about 2 litres per day. So it's going halfway there, and the rest has to go through ventilation. But what happens is you will reduce the vapour in air, and a cold, humid property feels colder than a cold, dry property. Right. So you can reduce your thermostat setting and feel just as warm if you use a dehumidifier. Also, all the energy that's used in a dehumidifier comes out as heat, plus you get a 50% bonus through enthalpy. It's a bit like an air source heat pump.
Right.
You get a bonus. You're getting that extra 50% of energy back. So it not only provides a little bit of heat, at least more than you're paying for, plus you're reducing your vapour, plus a damp brick is a poor insulator, so you get more heat loss because of the dampness around the windowsills and along the side of the wall. So there are at least 3 or 4 reasons why you can reduce your costs and be more energy efficient, greener, by using a dehumidifier.
And so we have one in the back room.
Well, I would probably have one down here anyway.
What sort of part?
Well, if it were me, so we just run one permanently, 24/7. I'd probably put one over there, or you know, you can look, you can try different things. The data loggers will help you because where you're getting the highest dew point is it tells you where you've got the greatest vapour. I mean, as a general rule, you want to have the dehumidifier near either where you're generating the vapour or where you're having the condensation take place. But in this environment, I might even put one there.
Right.
Ideally, you have it draining out, so you don't have to constantly do it. But you know, there are a lot of different ways of dealing with that. I mean, you could quite easily have it going down through the subfloor and draining out through the air brake.
Right.
But also, whenever you go away, leave a dehumidifier dripping.
And what capacity do you humidify?
So good question. 20 litre per day.
Right.
That's a sweet spot. If you go higher than that, they can tend to be noisy.
Right.
If you go lower than that, they're less efficient. When Putin went to war, I used 3 dehumidifiers in place of central heating, so I wasn't burning coal or oil.
Right.
And yeah, it was a bit on the cold side, but it, you know, but I kept dry. And you know, no mold and condensation and so on. But during COVID, because people were back at home more and working from home, there was a huge increase in the amount of condensation and mold.
Right. Right.
Just to say, there's water here, which suggests that there's a leak in the system, but it could be just because of the seal, but the seal seemed fine. Or it may be that there's rainwater coming in. Difficult to know. Right, so I've removed lots of water and mud, sand, and I would just have a look to see whether it comes back during this dry spell. Obviously, if it starts raining and it fills up, then that means that it's coming from rainwater passing through the gaps and cracks. So it's dry in your gully, your drain, which tells me you've got a crack somewhere. I can't see it, but there must be one, because basically you want to have water there to trap the smells, stop them getting through, and there's no trap. So I would say there's a crack at the basin, which would explain why you've got dampness to the front, which your predecessors have mitigated by increasing the subfloor ventilation. You've got a double brick there and you've got it all the way along, which is great and would have explained why you had dry rot in the subfloor, but actually the root cause would be this. Simple solution, at least short term, is to pass it to the front onto this street by just continuing your down pipe and just running it along away from the property. I say 2 meters or more should be fine, but that would explain why you had dry rot in the subfloor void. I've got a song about that.
I've done it from 9 till 10.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So over there, your gully, your drainage system doesn't have water in it,
right,
which tells me that there's a leak.
Okay. Do you mean the vertical part going down to the?
Yeah. Well, I can show you. So if you open this up, you can see that it's completely dry underneath, and even despite long periods of well, in fact, it did rain like a week ago, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So that the water should be to trap these smells from the drain,
mm-hmm,
and the fact that it's dry tells me that there's a leak in the subfloor, and it explains why you've got dampness to the front bay, which I could see underneath.
Right.
And what your predecessors did, rather than dealing with the root cause, is they increase the subfloor ventilation, and by increasing the subfloor ventilation, they increase the risk of condensation.
Okay.
Now, it's not the cause of the condensation, but it increases the risk because you got a lot more heat loss along the side of the property than you would otherwise have. If they had dealt with the drain, then you wouldn't have that, and you wouldn't have the risk of condensation, or you'd have less risk. It also explains why there was dry rot in the subfloor, and there's a long explanation about the wood weevil. But simple solution is to run this pipe out to the street,
right,
so away from the property, because it's going to start to cost you money to have CCTV camera in there to find out where it is, or so the problem with there are two issues. One, if it's dry, if there's a crack, it could either come from movement, so all of these properties will settle to some degree, or obviously a defect in the first instance, or it could be that I've taken the face of the fan off and had a look in it. It's not obviously blocked by anything. It's, you know, it's not as clean as it could be, but I've cleaned it up a bit, but can't do a huge amount. I think it's just probably age related, that it's just not. Oh, actually, you've got a fly wire on the outside that could do with cleaning. It has got an overrun on it, and I'll extend it, but I don't think it's wired. Oh, you've got 3 wires going in. Oh, well, I'll test it now. So the subfloor humidity is 71 and 18 degrees centigrade compared to 61, so 3. Yeah, so it's in the vapour levels are in line, but it's close to the subfloor ventilation, so probably not that representative. Calibrated now, they're all more or less the same. The important thing is the dew point. Well, the 3 elements. There's the surface relative humidity, that's taking into account the temperature difference between the data logger and the wall. The dew point, that's really critical, and you always want to keep that below the outside temperature. And then the relative or dew point differential, which is where you're looking at the difference between the dew point in one property compared to another property. Room compared to another room, and you're seeing where the vapour's being generated. If you press the green number now, that's then synchronizing, and the data is held on the data logger, and it's pulling it down. It takes roughly a week per, or a minute per week of data. You did it recently, so it should be relatively quick. And I'll get you to send them to me now. I'll show you the first one. You can repeat it. I'll put it on video so you can go back and have a look at it. And then you can use it, and then I'll show you in the first instance, and then you can use it yourself in the future. So if you press the calculator sign top right, and then press the export sign top right, and then either open CSV or export CSV. Quicker to do export CSV, but it doesn't always work. And then just send it to simon@dampsurveys.com. So the issues you've got here, condensation, and you can tell that because it's colourless essentially. Called by condensation because of excess vapour, because of the insufficient ventilation from the bathroom and kitchen, but it's made worse, considerably worse, by heat loss. And the heat loss is because you're always going to have heat loss in these zones because of the subfloor ventilation, but they doubled the size of the subfloor ventilation, therefore doubling the heat loss, because the excess vapour in the subfloor that would have been the root cause of the dry rot, and the wood weevil would be because, funnily enough, you wouldn't have wood weevil when the dry rot sets in. But the reason for the dry rot, in my opinion, comes from the drain to the front that is not trapping water, which suggests that there's a crack underground. And there's a simple solution. You can get a CCTV and you can have it lined, or you can just simply pipe it away and bypass it, which is what a lot of people do. It's a fraction of the price to do that. I also suspect you're getting a leak in your mains water because it's full of water to the front. But I don't know that, and it depends on. It could be rainwater, but if you have a look tomorrow or next day and over a dry period, and if it's filling up with water, you know for sure that it's coming from a leak. If it's filling up after a period of rain, then it comes from rain. I suspect it's a leak. Inside the vent, you've got a fly wire, which is very dusty. I'm going to try and clean it. You don't particularly need it. It's just slowing down the flow of air.
So I got it at 6 litres a second.
The painting here, it is just calcium sulphate salts that you've got there, and dampness. Ideally, you dry it out, use a dehumidifier and a fan, speeds up the process. Takes 6 to 9 months to dry out. So what I say to people is just sand it down, paint it, and be aware that you may have to repaint it next summer, but you know, it'll take like you half an hour to do it.
Okay.
So it's not like it's a major thing. So that's what I would do.
Okay.
Kitchen as well. So this is an example of hygroscopic salts. It's interesting to see the way it slightly varies in height, and that's because of the different sweet spots for drying out.